Good afternoon. This video is the first of 3 and dedicated to all female colleagues who are fighting on the front lines against hegemonic masculinity and misogyny, as well as to the 5% of men who are committed to healthy equality and have recognized that they themselves suffer from these power structures. First, I would like to briefly describe the character traits of the men who belong to this group. They cheat, steal, lie, exploit others, are aggressive. They manipulate others. They are selfish and narcissistic. They are spontaneous, act impulsively. They have limited perception, linear thought patterns, and short-sighted, inadequate problem-solving skills. Be careful, they do anything to support and strengthen their position. In order to navigate this work environment, it is first important to learn what methods these type of men use to maintain their position. Repeating Matilda syndrome. Keep good ideas to yourself. Work out your ideas in detail in advance, do your research thoroughly, and prepare yourself very well. Before you go public with them, make sure that only your name is associated with them. Be sure to claim copyright, all rights reserved, for all your work, and write your name and date on your documents. Stay persevering even in the face of opposition. Men don't like it at all when women act confidentially. It has long been established that women actually have the good ideas. Men have therefore developed the method of first talking down your ideas and then, a few weeks later, presenting the same innovation again under their own name, of course. The following rule applies. The more men reject your idea, the better the idea probably is. Mansplaining, lecturing. Men have a bad habit of constantly wanting to lecture women. They don't care whether they really know better or whether you asked for their advice. It makes them feel superior. Forming groups, conspiring behind your back. Be careful. Men are constantly discussing things. They need the approval of a group. That's just how it is. If they notice that you are performing excellently, they will target you. You pose a threat that must be neutralized. They talk about it. They make plans on how best to deal with you. The most popular methods in this regard are spontaneous, arbitrary reassignments or demotions. Another particularly popular tactic is to take credit for work you have already done. Then they decide that the woman needs to be looked after and a direct supervisor is hired to supervise, monitor, and control you accordingly. This new supervisor then takes credit for the work you have already done. This has happened to me twice. It's absurd. Threats of warnings are also popular ways to intimidate you. If you express constructive criticism, you will immediately be threatened with a warning letter. If you ask in surprise and want to find out the reason for the warning, you will not receive an answer. But you will not receive a warning letter either. If you increase the pressure, you will immediately receive a termination notice as a protective measure. Terminations do not have to be justified. The matter will not be discussed with you. The gentlemen don't need to justify themselves. Don't think that the Works Council has a say in this. It is left out of the loop. The Works Council is just a waste of paper anyway. Don't kid yourself. Works Council members always dance to the management's tune. Unfortunately, men still occupy truly influential management positions. Abuse of power is commonplace. Nobody needs that. Because of the agreements made behind your back, they feel powerful and form cliques. Men do not shy away from ruining your life. They act incredibly selfishly and disrespectfully. Their actions are intrusive and sometimes have serious professional consequences even for your private life. In order to weaken and harm you in the long term, they violate your personal rights and ensure that you suffer unreasonable disadvantages. Your scope of action is severely restricted and you have to expect considerable financial losses. Their criminal energy knows no bounds. It is best not to believe a word said by men who display these character traits. They lie through their teeth. They will stop at nothing. Highly criminal, extremely perfidious and deceitful. Really disgusting. The degree of lying to gain an advantage has reached a new dimension. Believe me, I know exactly what I am talking about. You can't even begin to imagine what they come up with to compensate for their mental deficits. Covering up. They are very organized. They work every day to cover up their web of lies. They spend an incredible amount of time doing this. Of course, this also weakens their performance in their daily work. You notice this clearly. You start to wonder what they are actually achieving anymore. Exploitation, abuse. These men have no problem whatsoever exploiting and abusing you to satisfy their needs. You are no longer perceived as a human being. In a demanding and challenging field of work, they are no longer able to hold their own mentally. They develop dangerous tactics to supposedly keep their head above water. In order to survive despite their cognitive difficulties, they resort to drastic, extremely devious means. Due to the mental superiority of women, men feel threatened. Therefore, Germany unfortunately still suffers from misogyny. It is particularly bad in the fields of technology and research and development. For whatever reason, men believe they have all the answers when it comes to technology. In my opinion, however, they have not achieved anything yet. Environmental pollution is greater than ever before. Technology is at a completely wrong and exploitative level. Important structures and fundamental properties of nature are not sufficiently comprehended. There is no understanding of what energy is, from which particles and highly organized patterns it is generated and regulated. The lawful functionality and interaction of physical phenomena with each other and their possible combinations with different materials are not being used correctly and implemented efficiently. They swallow up vast sums of funding and waste it without effects. So, in my view, there has been no quantum leap here. Believe me, I speak from experience. The discrimination I have experienced over the last 8 years is scandalous and no longer acceptable. Unfortunately, the trend shows that things are not getting better but rather worse. I am talking about perfidious, highly criminal fraud. Really pathetic. In my environment, I am experiencing a veritable, senseless, destructive rage. The last 8 years of my professional life have been marked by severe violence that includes spontaneous dismissals through no fault of my own, threats of warnings, spontaneous reassignments. Severe discrimination, that means demotion, dumping, pimping, abuse. Although women are more qualified than men, men are given preference in hiring. Defamation. Fraudulent misrepresentation, deception, lies. For example, employment contracts concluded under false pretenses, misleading job descriptions, inadequate payment. Falsely issued employment references, extremely high financial burdens, respectively losses, not receiving funds for important development projects, contacting lawyers, court hearing. Discrimination against educated women in the workplace by men has reached its peak. The linear thinking of these men is extremely pronounced and is not a challenge, as some female colleagues may still naively believe, but poses a threat to our society and has done so for thousands of years. Insert. Incidentally, this situation is currently becoming apparent once again in the absurd political situation. We are experiencing arguments, insufficient solutions to serious problems, warmongering, and so on. Insert end. Despite, or perhaps because of, my qualifications, I am now unemployed for the third time through no fault of my own. This is outrageous. I am not willing to take this anymore. Learn more about hegemonic masculinity in my next video, part 2 of 3. Thank you very much. Shiva, First Regent of Universe.